Have you heard about all the disinformation out there? Some people call it misinformation, but that might just be part of a disinformation campaign itself. Nevertheless, do you know what the single biggest piece of misinformation, disinformation, fake news of the last 2 years is? Here it is, folks. The fakiest of fake news from the lips of the purported leader of the free world.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Yeah.
You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. So said Joe Biden, and so said many others, but it's not true. Right now, Joe Biden has the COVID. He joins a long list of the ostentatiously jabbed and boosted who've nevertheless managed to get a dose of the COVID. Weird. Jacinda Trudeau, for example, in Ottawa, gets it once every 2.5 weeks. It's not funny. Poor old Biden is weak, woozy, out of it, barely able to speak, can't function. So no change in his condition, except that he's got that COVID thing where you lose all sense of smell. So he has to lean in even closer to sniff your hair. Ooh, she looks like she's enjoying it. Go on, boys and girls, try it and see how much the ladies love it. The interesting thing is that you can't get near Joe Biden unless you're vaxxed. His Secret Service detail, his secretaries, his interns, the women whose hair he sniffs, the children whose hair he sniffs are all vaccinated and boosted up the wazoo. So he was infected with COVID by someone who's vaccinated. So if you're vaccinated against the COVID, you can still get the COVID and you can still give the COVID, which doesn't really make it much of a vaccine as that word was traditionally understood, does it? And here's the kicker. They knew this at the time. Here is Deborah Birx, the second best known face in American public health after Commissar Fauci.
I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines and it made people...
We overplayed the vaccines. I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection. If that's so, why didn't she tell us at the time? It would have been nice to know and helpful to the ethical concept of informed consent. And instead of being overplayed by the vaccines, maybe people would have done better with those therapeutics that social media relegated to the category of horse dewormer or whatever it was. Meanwhile, in entirely unrelated news, I'm thinking of introducing a new feature called Surprise Blood Clot of the Day. Here's Max Bergin, 20 years old, just won the 800 meters at the British Athletics Championship. Quote, "A few days ago, I pulled out of the 800 meters at the World Champs with what we initially thought to be a calf strain. Upon further investigation, it has turned out to be a deep vein thrombosis in the right calf, an issue completely unrelated to running or training of any other kind." Unquote. Tough break for a 20-year-old. It's an issue completely unrelated to, well, anything really. In other entirely unrelated sporting news from down under, Australian Football League legend Shane Crawford left heartbroken after sudden death of younger brother Justin, who also played Australian football. Justin Crawford was 45, and he died suddenly of sudden death syndrome, which we've talked about on this show. The first symptom of oncoming sudden death is that you're walking around perfectly healthy. The second symptom is you're dead. In even more totally unrelated news, 2 more siblings, one living, one dead, this time from the music biz. Happy Mondays star Shaun Ryder reveals his tragic brother's last moments before their mum found him dead. He too died suddenly, but wait a minute, what's this 9, 10, 11, 12 paragraphs into the story, quote, "The day before he got on the flight, he had to have that COVID booster injection in the States. He lands and starts complaining about this headache. It was murdering him. Our ma'am wanted him to go to A&E, but he said, no, I've got to go to rehearsals." So he gets to rehearsals and he can't recognize any of the band. He can't recognize the drummer, Gaz, or anyone, unquote. Oh, no, no, no. Don't you even think about connecting that up with anything. He just died suddenly from sudden death syndrome. In even more totally unconnected news, Notice all those flight cancellations? What's up with that? Here's the explanation from Qantas.
Cancellation rates are not where we want them to be. And why is that? And it's simply because of the high sickness that the entire country and our industry is seeing. Our pilot sickness with our 737s as an example, our 737 pilots, is double what it was pre-COVID. Our cabin crew levels are 40% higher.
Cabin crew sickness is 40% higher than it was. You don't say. Okay, enough with the anecdotage. Let's just cut to the big picture. In the Canadian province of Alberta, we've had the Premier of Alberta on this show. The leading cause of death in Alberta is now, go on, take a guess, take a wild guess. Cancer, heart disease? No, the leading cause of death is cause unknown.
Unknown causes was the leading cause of death in Alberta last year. That category leads the way over dementia, which has been in the top spot since 2016.
A couple of years ago, unknown cause of death was unknown. There were just a mere 500 or so, if you have a look at this graphic of unknown causes. Look at that. 2019, there were just 500 unknown causes of death. Now it's 3,362. The leading cause of death is unknown. You're more likely to die from an unknown cause in a first world society than anything else. There's a lot of unknown cause going around. What are the early symptoms? The warning signs of unknown cause? Beats me, nobody knows. That's why they call it unknown cause. What's causing all this unknown cause of death? Is it climate change? Transphobia? Or could it be that, I'm just thinking outside the box here, could it be that this sudden, unprecedented epidemic of unknown causes is in some way connected to the unprecedented universal medicalization of the entire population? I'm not saying it is. Don't pick up the phone and call Ofcom right now. I'm just saying something wacky is staring us in the face, and it would be nice if the groupthink media would stop being pom-pom girls for a disastrous one-size-fits-all public policy and look into it.